When I got out of the hospital, I drove straight to my land, 5 acres. My dad left me the same ground where I buried my wife's ashes under a big oak tree, but the oak was gone. In its place stood the concrete foundation of a new condo building, part of a row of 28 that stretched across my entire property like a disease. The sign out front said, "Private property of Heritage Point HOA Phase 4 development." My name wasn't anywhere on it. I just stood there shaking. My chest still hurt from the surgery, but the pain I felt then had nothing to do with my heart. They hadn't just taken dirt and trees, they'd taken my memories, my promise to Sarah. And when I marched up to the security guards to tell them it was my land, one of them smirked and said, "Not according to our paperwork, sir." I swear I could feel something inside me snap. That 5-acre patch wasn't just property, it was the last piece of the old world my father built. We cleared it together with an old Ford tractor and more sweat than sense. He always told me a man's land is his backbone. Let anyone take that from you, and you might as well stop breathing. Standing there, looking at the mud where Sarah's oak used to be, I realized I wasn't breathing. Barbara Kelso. That name still tastes bitter. She was the HOA president over at Heritage Point, the kind of woman who smiled while she sharpened her knives. She'd called that land underutilized green space, said maybe the original survey was fuzzy. I showed her my deed clear as daylight, recorded in 1968. She just smiled wider and said, "Paperwork can be messy. We'll have our lawyers review it." I thought she was bluffing. Turns out while I was lying in a hospital bed praying my heart would keep beating, she was pouring concrete over my life. I called the county clerk the next morning. The lady on the phone had that voice tired, cautious. She confirmed my deed was valid, no liens, no transfers. Relief washed through me for about 10 seconds. Then she said, "But there's a development permit filed by Heritage Point HOA citing a 1997 boundary survey." I remembered that old dispute, 10 feet of fence line, never updated on paper. A clerical ghost, and Barbara had turned it into a weapon. That night, she called me herself. Smooth voice, fake sympathy. "Mike, such a misunderstanding. Come to our community meeting tonight. We'll clear this up in front of everyone." I knew it was a setup, but if I didn't go, she'd say I was hiding. So I showed up. 40 people packed into that beige clubhouse, folding chairs, creaking under the weight of their self-righteousness. Barbara stood up front in her power suit, smiling like she owned the sun. Mr. Carver's deed references, outdated maps, she said. The HOA acted in good faith to improve the community. I held up my deed, the original stamp, still legible after 50 years. "This is my land," I said. "My father's, my wife's resting place." She tilted her head, pitying. "Oh, Mike, it's too late now. The concrete's poured. The investors are committed. Why don't we discuss a buyout?" "A buyout? A bribe dressed in perfume?" "You mean to pay me for the land you already stole?" I said. Gasps. Murmurs. Someone shouted, "I was threatening them." Barbara's face turned sharp, her smile cracking like cheap plaster. I left before I said something I'd regret, but the humiliation stuck to me like tar. That night, Emily, my daughter, begged me to walk away. "Dad, they'll crush you in court. Please take the money." I looked at her, at the fear in her eyes, and for the first time I wondered if she was right. Maybe I was too old to fight. Maybe this was just dirt. But then I saw the empty space where Sarah's oak had stood. Dirt wasn't all it was. It was memory. It was promise. And I wasn't done keeping mine. I called a friend, Lena Brooks, a civil surveyor I trusted. Sharp as a tack, no patience for bullshit. I showed her Barbara's so-called boundary map. She squinted at it, tapped the paper, and said, "This isn't a survey, it's a sketch." And they built right over a city sewer easement. That sentence was the first real breath I'd taken in weeks. Building on an easement is a violation of state and federal code. Illegal. Unsafe. A ticking time bomb. The next morning, my crew and I blocked their construction road with 12 concrete barriers. Hung a big sign, "Private road right of access, per deed number 477B. Within an hour, the site supervisor called me, screaming that his cement trucks were idling on the highway. I told him calmly, You're trespassing and you're on a recorded line." Silence. Then a string of curses. I hung up smiling. Barbara's next move was to send the cops to my house. 2 deputies showed up while I was making pancakes for my grandkids. "We got a complaint." One said claims of threats and illegal surveillance. I showed them my home security footage, one of Barbara's drones hovering over my backyard right above the kids' swing set. "That's your surveillance," I said. The deputy's face soured. "We'll have a word with Ms. Kelso," he muttered before leaving. But that moment, seeing my granddaughter's eyes wide with fear as red and blue lights flashed through the window that one cut deep. Emily came over that night angry and scared. "They sent the police, Dad. Please stop this. Sell the land." Her voice cracked, tears running down. I almost said yes. Almost. Instead, I lied. I told her I'd think about it. That night I couldn't sleep. Rain hammered the windshield as I sat in my truck on a hill overlooking the construction site. Floodlights glared off wet concrete. They were pouring the final slab right over the spot where Sarah's oak had been. I watched it vanish under the gray. They were sealing her grave with cement. And that's when I knew. I called my foreman. "Friday morning," I said. "Quiet load-in. No company logos." Friday came clear and golden, the kind of day they put on postcards. Barbara had set up a podium, balloons, even a coffee table for her little ribbon-cutting ceremony. Heritage Point Phase 4, the future starts here. 60 people, cameras, rolling pastries in hand. My crew and I had been in position since dawn. 2 bulldozers and an excavator hidden behind the tree line. At 10:00 a.m., Barbara stepped up to the mic in her red suit talking about community values and vision. I let her finish her speech almost. At 10:15, I gave the signal. Engines roared to life. The sound rolled across the field like thunder. Heads turned. The bulldozers broke through the temporary fence, pushing aside the flimsy panels like paper. People screamed, scattered. Barbara froze at the podium, still clutching the microphone. I drove down the access road parked behind the news vans and walked straight toward her. I was wearing my work uniform, boots, denim dark blue shirt with ironclad demo and recovery stitched on the chest. The crowd parted like water. I took the mic from her hand. "Good morning," I said, calm as stone. "My name is Mike Carver. I own this land. You are all trespassing." Barbara's voice cracked. "Security, remove this man." No one moved. My foreman, Randy, built like a brick wall, stepped forward and shook his head. "You built these condos on land you do not own," I said, "using fraudulent documents, violating multiple safety codes. As of 8 a.m. this morning, this entire site is condemned." I handed her the court injunction signed by a judge just 3 hours earlier. Lena had filed it overnight, citing the sewer easement. It gave me full authority to demolish all uninspected structures on my property. Barbara read it, her hands trembling. "You can't do this," she whispered. "I can," I said, "and I am." I nodded to Randy. The excavator's arm swung forward, slow and deliberate, and tore through the model unit. The sound was deafening, splintering wood, shattering glass, the scream of metal giving way. Cameras caught every second. Barbara lunged for the mic again. "You're insane! This is destruction of property." "It's not your property," I said. I held up Lena's map, the red line of the sewer easement running right under 12 of the condos, and next to it the blurry fake she'd filed. "You lied to the county. You lied to your investors. You lied to everyone." The crowd turned on her. The investors looked pale. One muttered something about calling his lawyer. Barbara's mask finally cracked. The charm drained from her face, leaving only rage. "This isn't over," she hissed. "No," I said, "but you are." By nightfall, the footage was everywhere. Barbara tried to spin it, grieving veteran destroys affordable housing, but the truth has a way of clawing to the surface. The bribery attempt with the city inspector, the fake liens, the late-night trespass at my house, every dirty trick she'd pulled came to light. She was arrested 2 weeks later, caught on camera, sneaking around my garage at 2 in the morning with a voice recorder and zip ties in her purse. They found maps to my daughter's job and my grandkids' school in her car. Whatever mask she had left, it shattered. At the next HOA meeting, the residents voted to dissolve the organization entirely. Barbara was escorted out in handcuffs, her red suit dull under the fluorescent lights. I didn't say a word. Didn't need to. Justice had already spoken. When the last of the machines went quiet and the dust settled, I stood on that land again, the same ground where my father once told me to build something that lasts. The condos were gone, the concrete gone, only soil and wind and silence remained. And I finally breathed. Sometimes to build peace you have to tear corruption down to the roots.